Aloha and welcome to this special edition of Spotlight Now with students from Kamehameha Schools' Hawaii Island campus.
Today we're going to discuss two important topics that the students selected themselves. First, we're going to look at outmigration, a huge challenge for Hawaii.
Such an important issue. And then in our second half, we'll discuss local ia, Hawaiian fish ponds.
Here to host our discussion are Kamaha'o Halemanu as well as Vahivalani Kapera. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us on.
We're so excited for you to be here. Tell us first why Kamaha'o you chose the topic of outmigration.
Yeah, so, outmigration is such a multifaceted problem. It's more than just Native Hawaiians leaving Hawaii because of the cost of living, but also education is a huge factor. We have graduates moving out to go East Coast or West Coast, And I think that it's important to raise awareness on this outmigration issue because with all the problems that are happening within Hawaii, we need Native Hawaiian perspective to solve these problems. But how can we do that if they're not here? So I think what we should really do is be raising awareness on that so we can keep Hawaii, Hawaii.
And Vahivalani, how about for you? What do you believe the youth's role would be in addressing this issue?
I believe that the youth should be able to work together to discuss this issue of outmigration and, come up with possible solutions and really take actions towards those solutions, whether it's towards better access to education, how can we strengthen what UH offers and maybe incorporating more interning opportunities, or whether it's keeping costs down, how are we able to not only work as a youth together, but as a community to keep costs down so we are able to sustain ourselves for generations to come.
So well said. We know that you have done a great job in researching and also booked some great guests, so we are really looking forward to our discussion today.
And we're actually going to be turning things over to you two, so take it away.
Mahalo nui. So before we start, let's just show a quick graphic on the statistics of what it looks like in Hawaii and on the continent for this outmigration issue. Last fall, we learned from census data that 47% of the total Native Hawaiian population lives in Hawaii. That means the majority of Native Hawaiians, 53%, now live away from our islands. We celebrate the fact that Native Hawaiians in Hawaii and on the continent have increased in numbers, but it's important to note the Native Hawaiian population on the continent is growing 5 times faster than here.
Joining us now to discuss this critical issue, we have two guests from Hawaii Island, State Representative Kirsten Kahaloa and Dr. Kamehameha Beamer, Director of the Kamakakuokalani Center for Hawaiian Studies at UH Manoa. Mahalo for being here.
Mahalo for having us.
Mahalo nui.
I'm so excited for what we're about to do here because you guys are amazing in your own respective realms. You guys are at the vanguard of everything. We have a State Representative Kahaloa, and then we have Dr. Beamer from UH Manoa. I'm going to see you in a few years, hopefully.
Hikino, yes, come.
So I think just to begin, as we're really just settling into this whole segment on outmigration, what do you believe are the main reasons Native Hawaiians are outmigrating and leaving Hawaii? And I want to direct this question first to Representative Kahaloa.
Well, mahalo for convening this discussion. It's really critical, and I think now is the time we need to start elevating the discussion. If there are more Native Hawaiians away from Hawaii, as we know with statistics, then we really need to move the needle to switch that and make it a Hawaii solution to bringing people back. And I think we all know cost of living has been really challenging for our communities, especially Native Hawaiians. But the reality is most don't want to go. I think at some point you get to I want to support my family, I want to provide for them. This is the lifestyle I choose. But the financial stress and the realities of keeping Hawaiians here have come to a critical breaking point. And we need to figure out solutions to easing that tension and making way to make it welcome for our Native people to not just live here, but stay here.
And Dr. Beamer, from an educational perspective?
Sure. Unfortunately, the reality is the economy isn't set up to function well for Native Hawaiians and most local people in Hawaii. This is something we've been trying to solve for decades. But currently, our over-reliance on the military-industrial complex, for instance, and if you're a member of the U.S. military, you come to Hawaii, you get a housing allowance between $3,000 and $7,000, depending on your rank. Now, that competes with every local person when it comes to housing. Most local jobs pay minimal amounts, so people have what's called ALICE statistics, where they're asset limited, they're fully employed, they're working hard, but they're just barely scraping by. And what we're looking to do is to restructure the economic system So it actually functions for our people and our aina and our place.
Wow, mahalo nui for that.
Yeah, and Representative Kahaloa, I wanted to know more. How have you experienced the effects of outmigration, whether in the work that you do or in the community that you are a part of?
I was thinking a lot about this, and something that I recently thought about as we were preparing for this is that, even on neighbor islands, there's outmigration from our islands to Oahu, and my parents were part of that, going to Oahu to get educated at UH Manoa, and then raising their family there. So I had to return to my aina hanau, my native land, or where my family are from, as an adult. So that's just one example we've been facing for a really long time because there are more job opportunities. But I also found myself going away to college and not coming home right away. And I think as you go to school away, if you're on the continent or around the world, and then look to a pathway to come home as you start to build your career, the cost of living can sometimes be daunting because your money goes further in most everywhere else in the world. So I think we really need to find pathways, whether that's setting up mentorships for folks to come home or look at ways we can really entice people, because I will say I was a little stubborn in that I thought I couldn't find a pathway back, but I realized the call to our home was just so much more important than anything else, and that you just have to have the resilience to say, I'm gonna figure it out because I want to be here and I'm gonna pave the way to make it happen.
And having being a graduate of Kamehameha Schools, and going out of Hawaii to pursue your post-high university endeavors, and entering the political realm, how do you feel, or what do you think the outmigration impact is having on political candidates who are Native Hawaiian or have Native Hawaiian values?
Yes. Well, first of all, we need as many Native Hawaiians who want to serve in government as possible. And I know there's some uncomfortable complications in serving in a Western government complex that's not of our own. But if we don't have our voices at the seat at the table, we can't make those decisions for our aina, for our ohana, for Hawaii if we're not there. And so more of us not being eligible to vote if they live in other states or across the world now makes it difficult to get our voices into elected office. So just highly encourage people to consider not just voting, but also consider getting involved in politics so that more Kanaka voices have a seat at the table.
Right, mahalo for that.
Yeah, mahalo. And this question is directed to both of you, but I'm going to have Dr. Beamer answer first. In your opinion, what needs to be done to curb outmigration?
So we need to really invest in our local people and communities. We need to stop the structural imbalance of the economic system that we have. So right now, unfortunately, the system favors people that make lots of money. We have an extractive economy that takes from our islands and doesn't actually regenerate and give back. So that's a key thing we need to do. And what we've seen over the last 20 years is really this blossoming of aloha aina. When I was your folks' age, there were very few lokoia, very few fish ponds that were restored that provided jobs and education to community. We now have all across Hawaii these incredible programs that provide jobs, education, and resources and growth into our communities. And we need to thoroughly invest in that entire sector that will better our people and provide more jobs and resources to our aina in place.
Yeah, mahalo. Anything to add, Representative?
I agree completely. We need to create workforce and pathways of keeping our people here in ways that we want to provide types of workforce. I think that's really critical. We also need to work on, I think, growing entrepreneurship in the ways that our people feel comfortable, whether that's making local value-added products that we want to make. But I think, too, addressing housing is going to be critical. But that gets into just really difficult discussions on land use, water rights. And so how do we have those conversations? And I'm just really honored that my colleagues in the legislature last year took a difficult discussion and vote on adding accessory dwelling units, or ADUs as we call them, to lots and individual households, so that you can bring your ohana into your property if they cannot afford to build or find a house in their own way, that's a way to do so. And this is definitely to help Kama'aina stay in their homes. I think from a legislative perspective, we also need to look at supporting DHHL, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and putting more families who qualify into those homes. If we do that, that will open up homes for all Kama'aina. So we have to start seeing that supporting Native Hawaiians in Hawaii is actually supporting all of Hawaii, that some of the things that we do and can create in terms of policy or procedure, the way we do it, helps everyone. And it's not just preference to the Native people of these lands.
And then, so Dr. Beamer, this question is actually directed towards you. You know, you're so active with University of Hawaii at Manoa, and this is actually for the audience at home as well. What do you think, or what do you know is the pros of having students who graduate from a high school in Hawaii and attending post-secondary at a university within Hawaii? So UH Hilo, UH Manoa.
Yeah, we have an incredible educational infrastructure and system. The thing about coming to UH and our system is we will help you grow yourself, become what you truly can become, and give back to our islands. So if you want to work and live in Hawaii, it's a great institution to come to because of the networks and the resources. And you know, you have faculty like me that are committed towards the future of Hawaii. Going away is also a great experience if you choose to do that. But as we heard, sometimes it's hard to come home, you know, and those networks and relationships that you have may be different. So yeah, please, I'll see you at UH Manoa soon.
Yes, please, thank you. I guess that's my acceptance, that's my verbal
Yeah, come, bro.
Okay, so before we continue, let's look at our discussion and take a look at what's being done to involve youth in the discussion about outmigration.
Last fall, the County of Hawaii and Kamehameha Schools sponsored the Kupa'a Challenge at the KS Hawaii campus. The event brought together students and community leaders to identify strategies for keeping Native Hawaiian ohana living and thriving on Hawaii Island.
My role at the Kupa'a Challenge was really just to be a voice for Opio, you know, also to bring a youth perspective. We were quite literally challenged to develop strategies and solutions to keep our Native people here in Hawaii.
We all know cost of living in Hawaii is high, and like a lot of my ohana members, people in my family, moved to Washington, moved to Texas, Utah, and just having your ohana branch out and not knowing if they're gonna come back is emotional.
Part of the Kupa'a Challenge was getting to innovate an idea that would revolutionize a way to keep Kanaka in Hawaii, and getting to present that to my peers and to people I look up to. It was amazing. It's as simple as that. It was amazing because getting to share my ideas and ways to incorporate that into our future was really what was important to me.
We're not like regular schools. We don't learn in the class. Like, we're outside, we go to the lokoi'a, we go to kai, we do aina-based learning. And so when we grow up and we go to college, that's what the fields that we go into. But there's not enough jobs, there's not enough workforces to keep us here to do the jobs that we want to do. There's no Hawaii without Hawaiians. If you lose Hawaiians, then this isn't Hawaii. It's just a vacation place for tourists if we're gone.
This is a problem that not one person can solve. It's not something that an administration for the county can solve. This is a problem that it takes all of us to solve.
You know, it's so inspirational about what's being shared. You know, this whole issue collectively is definitely not something that we can do by ourselves, but all together as a community and as a lahui. So having watched that video, just giving some thoughts or a mana'o on it, I want to direct towards Representative Kahaloa first is, how do you feel about OPO such as myself or younger, or maybe even slightly older, being engaged with this out-migration issue?
Yeah, I am excited that the Kupa'a Challenge convened all different sectors and leadership on Hawaii Island, and that Kamehameha Schools in the County of Hawaii came together. I think conversations like that are only gonna help us figure out how to solve for all the out-migration issues. Youth involvement is super important in any stage of policy making. One reason I was elected to office and wanted to serve is that it's about the children, the OPO now, and what opportunities they have to still live in Hawaii. I think there are realities that Ken are keiki today that are maybe in preschool, kindergarten, first grade. Will they be able to afford to live and stay in Hawaii? And so in that sense, I think about that in all the work that I do. So I hope that we continue to encourage OPO to get engaged in the political process. I know they aren't old enough to vote yet, but we listen to the youth voice, and people can come to the Capitol, whether it's Kaiapuni Day at the Capitol or any type of theme. We always welcome people to come, especially our keiki, and they can give testimony at any age to say, I believe in this, or I don't believe this is good for Hawaii. And we just want to see more and more engagement. It doesn't take until you're an adult and you can be at the polls to shift and make an impact on the political landscape of Hawaii. It can start at any time and any age. The youth using their voice, I think, is the most powerful tool. I don't want to say we listen to the OPO voice more than adults, but it makes an impact because the laws we create today impact our keiki of tomorrow. And laws once enacted, they don't change life immediately. So what we're doing every day at the legislature is really shaping the future of our youth.
Mm-hmm. So you guys always envision the keiki in mind, which is amazing.
Not all of us, but keiki should be at the center of our decision making all the time. It really should.
It's what we do now that will affect them in the future. Totally agree. And Dr. Beamer, anything you want to add about this Kupa'a Challenge?
Yeah, it's so heartfelt, so much aloha and pride to see your folks and your generation, raising this really critical and important issue. Like I said, unfortunately, the system isn't set up right now to help us, to help you folks. And these issues have been around for decades. And it's so critical and important that you're bringing it to a head now because they are solvable. They're things that your generation, with the right leadership, can fix.
Mahalo for that.
And Dr. Beamer, this question is directed to you. If we understand education as a lead to empowerment, how can strengthening one's cultural foundation or Hawaiian identity impact outmigration?
Sure. It's absolutely critical and important. Our ancestors thrived in these islands for centuries because we understood our place and our relationships to Aina and to each other. It's a fantastic thing if Hawaiians do want to go. We're navigators. We can go any place, and this will always be our kule'iwi, always be our home. But if we're forced to go somewhere else because we cannot survive in our own home, that's a structural issue that we have to face and fix. So being rooted and connected to your place and that identity, you'll hold with you wherever you go. And for those of us that remain here, we need to create a space for all of our ohana to live and thrive. That's what the generations before fought for us, and that's our kuleana today, even in this very difficult time and system and structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, with so much of our, Native Hawaiians, we're akamai, we have so much ingenuity within us. And some of us want to shoot for the stars too, going West Coast, going East Coast, wanting to move outside of Hawaii, because there's no IBs in Hawaii, which is a factor for moving out. If you could give a message to families whose keiki, your children have moved from Hawaii to pursue education outside of Hawaii, what would your message be to them, and what is your ultimate hope for them?
Sure. that they can be whatever they want to be, accomplish their fullest potential, live aloha in what they do, and remember that you have a connection and a kuleana to this place, no matter where you go. Our ancestors understood this, and so it's great to. I do work in Europe. I do work all across the world. I learn about economic systems and structures. It's not just happening in Hawaii, these structural inequities. And so it's great to learn from the outside, but bring that home and fix the problems that we have here.
Because if we send our best and brightest away, we want them to collect information and then come home.
Well, not necessarily the best and brightest go away. Many of them stay here too. And so I think people got to make their own decisions. But always remember that there's a kuleana, a true sense of responsibility to this place and to making it better for future generations.
Mahalo.
Yeah, mahalo nui. And Representative Kahaloa, what I really wanted to know is what support systems are being offered that are needed to help Native Hawaiians thrive?
Oh, there's so much to kind of unpack there, but I think there's so much more opportunities to enhance that. We need to make it a priority that Native Hawaiians living in their homeland here in Hawaii are important at all levels of government, in all systems, in all sectors. And I don't know if we're there yet, but some of the things we're doing to support Native Hawaiians, like housing more Native Hawaiians through the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, as an example. The legislature, we recently funded Kaiapuni education. I know we can take that a step further. Helping Hawaiians thrive or also finding workforce development opportunities and career pathways in Aloha Aina initiatives. I think there's great opportunities to steward Aina and not do it in a volunteer role, that our people can get paid to care for our lands. And so how we look at different things like that is important. I think the more we instill and ground all Hawaiians in Hawaiian values in Olelo, we know Kamehameha Schools can kind of create that comfortable curriculum, and we do that in the public schools as well. Our immersion and public charter schools that are supporting Hawaiian language first or Hawaiian culture first are able to do that. But I think we can take it a step further, because again, if our people are grounded in their Aina, in their ahupua'a, in their communities, whether they go home or choose to stay here, they will be so deeply connected that we hope they will return or decide to make an impact in their community, because they're just so steeped in who they are as a person. And we should be comfortable and proud to say we're Hawaiian and understand what that is, and not be fearful or uncomfortable with saying I am Native Hawaiian.
And then, looking at the audience who are watching this right now, it could be a keiki right now who's maybe going to be our next governor, or maybe even fill your shoes after. Do you have any message to the Opio who want to pursue a career in politics?
Great question. I hope everybody knows that you can be anything you want and choose to be. Like Dr. Beamer said, I think we want to encourage everyone to be part of the political process in any way they feel comfortable, but we need to understand that in order to lead in our community in the complex Western government system that we're in, that we might have to do things we're uncomfortable with in order to serve and lead, because leading in this role in government as a state representative is probably not what's natural to us as Kanaka. But if we did serve in student government at Kamehameha, or we serve in a student government role in college, those are some of the pathways that tell us not only that we can do it, that we can thrive and succeed and make a big impact. So I embolden everybody to make an impact in our community with our lahui in any way that is most comfortable to you. But if it is to serve in elected office, come visit us, come talk to us. We'd love to really coach and mentor my colleagues in office now. There's only 7 of us elected to office that are Native Hawaiian in the House. and then several others in the Senate, we always would love more Native Hawaiians to serve in leadership roles. We can do more for our people with greater voice. So come, join us.
I love what you said. That's so thought-provoking, very chicken skin. I totally agree. It's very good reassurance knowing there are people who see and can envision a good future for Hawaii. So mahalo for joining us and sharing your valuable insights.
When we come back, our team will explore a new topic, local Hawaiian fish ponds and their sustainability.
Aloha and welcome back to this special edition of Spotlight Now with students from Kamehameha Schools' Hawaii Island campus.
In the first half, we learned about the challenges of outmigration on Hawaii Island. And Vihiva, what were some of your key takeaways from that?
Overall, great mana'o from both guests. Something that really stood out to me that Dr. Beamer said was the importance of tending to our local people, because ultimately our local people is what makes our communities, strong. And really building a strong cultural foundation for these cultural practices is what really makes us Hawaiians want to feel that they belong on our land.
Yeah, I love what they both had to say. And one thing that he also shared was this idea that Hawaiians are naturally navigators, but we want to have a place for them to come back to. So I thought that was really striking. Kamaha'o, what stood out to you?
I think it's also just super reassuring knowing that we have two Native Hawaiian kanaka inside of the realm of politics and the realm of education who understand that all the decisions that we make starting from today have to be able to prolong itself so that it can positively affect the future generations that come after us. So a lot of takeaways that we learned, and it was just super fun to be able to get some responses and get to know them,
Yeah, great responses, but also great question. You guys are doing a great job. For the second segment, we're going to look and discuss at local Ia Hawaiian fish ponds. How does this topic connect with the issues from the first segment? Kamaha'o.
I think just connecting with the issue of the first segment, as Dr. Beamer mentioned, he mentioned local Ia. Local Ia are so important because it's a Native Hawaiian practice. It was an ingenuity that our ancestors made, and it just goes to show that it's a testament to what we can accomplish as a people. And it just goes to show that if we are going to take care of these cultural places such as local Ia, we should have some Native Hawaiian representation in that process.
Yeah, and Vihivalan, how about for you?
One thing that really comes to mind is aloha aina, or tending to our land, and the iini, or want to take care of our land. And I feel like we need the brilliance of our people and their love for our land to perpetuate taking care and the restoration work that's being done with these special places.
We have had such a great discussion so far. Hivalani, what's coming up next?
Before we meet our next guest, let's take a look at one of those special places, Kumuola Marine Science and Education Center, where over the summer students conducted research to inform future projects and applications at fish ponds across Hawaii.
My family comes from a long line of fishermen. It's just a lifestyle to me. It's what I live and breathe. I breathe the kai. If I could, I'd spend every waking moment down in the ocean. That's where I feel peace. That is my church. That is where I feel the most happy.
My love for art comes from a place of reflecting our lahui. The events that we go through, the feelings I have, my art is a way to capture time and space and place and everything that happens, like all the constants, to kind of generate a new feeling.
Through the Aina Edge Research Collective, we build relationships with our school, our teachers, and our kids, as well as various groups within the community, various SMEs, to grow our aloha for our advancement of Aina, in particular here, local Ia.
My research question is finding the relationship between length and mass of the fish in our local Ia.
I'm looking at whether or not opai zoea are a food source for fish within the local Ia.
What is the abundance of adult opai?
To figure out the abundance and biomass of our local Ia,
It explores a new form of communication. It's communicating data sets through art in a non-traditional form.
So without logging it, the graph would be exponential. So then there'll be a lot of varying factors that would cause the data to like not be as straight or as accurate. So then we use log to make the line linear. And then using linear data, it'll make the data more accurate, more readable.
I'm on my way to go get the trapper now. Hopefully, there's old pie.
What is it?
What are all of these though? All these dots? I'm not sure. Yeah, it doesn't look like you have an absolute ton of stuff in here. So there's opaizoea and then there's crabzoea. There's opaizoea and then there's crabzoea.
They eats it and then spits it out and then eats it again. Now we have like concrete evidence that the Ama are actually eating it. Not just numbers, but actual visual evidence.
This idea of this collective and Oiviej for Eola, growing our students to deeply understand something for themselves, make their own relationships and understand it on kind of their own terms, to participate in and grow in their leadership of Aina.
You work for the betterment of the community, where the generation of information that you gather helps your community grow.
If you're only worried about yourself and worry about what's good for you, you leave your community behind. But if you worry about your community and make everyone better, in turn, you make yourself better as well.
Joining us now, we have Kumuola Director Luke Mead, Kamalu Abe, a student at the Kamehameha Schools Hawaii campus, and Alex Conley from KUA, which advances community-based natural resources management.
Thank you so much for having you guys on here. And just like how we had the outmigration topic of having people in the vanguard and alaka'i for that general topic, we have people who are at the vanguard for sustainability and all around just the amazing cultural practice of being a conservationist and alaka'i steward for local i'a. So I think just to get the viewers at home a little bit more familiar with who all of you are, the first question I want to ask first we'll start off with Kumuluk is, what is your background in the field of conservation for local i'a? And also, what is your history with the organization you represent?
All right, well, you know, I grew up in Puna, Hawaii, so I always grew up around our kind of natural and cultural resources, especially our aquatic resources. And really, but my first exposure to local i'a wasn't until I attended the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And through a program at Manoa, I was able to go visit Paipaio Heia and contribute to their restoration efforts when they were first kind of working on some of the mangrove removal. So I remember that distinctly. And you know, my career took me through various opportunities, I would say, in working with and around and on natural and cultural resources in Hawaii. And about 7 years ago, I was fortunate enough to join Kamehameha Schools Hawaii as the director of our Kumola Marine Science Education Center, which is really that education and stewardship program based around the local i'a of Kapalaho, Waiahole, and Waiopio.
Wow. And then Kamalu, what's your story?
Yeah, you know, I feel so blessed to have been given the opportunity to assume the role of a kia'i local i'a, and it all started about 2 years ago through an email from the Kumola staff pitching the idea of having student research aides down at Kumola. And I applied and got the position, and this will be my second year working at the Kumola Marine Science Education Center, and you know, I've gained so much knowledge and experiences through this role, yeah.
Wow, so much mana'o given from our Kumuola reps. Now, Ms. Conley, what's your story behind this?
Mahalo. My personal connection to fish ponds comes from a place of gratitude. Back when I was around your age, I was at Castle High School. I was struggling. It was so lonely for me. I was having a hard time, but I truly found myself when I started volunteering at Waikalua Local i'a in Kaneohe. And there I found my worth, I found my passion, and it led me on this trajectory, which ultimately led me to Kua Aina Ulua Wamo. And I have to say that within KUA itself, there are many people that should be here in this seat, including Brenda Lima, who is the Hui Malama Local i'a coordinator at KUA, where she facilitates a network of 60 fish ponds throughout the islands, along with Kinohi Fukumitsu, who is a Kia'i Lokoi'a Pohaku specialist, as well as Hi'ile Kovelo, who actually named the network that I coordinate, and she's our KUA board president and dare I say, Lokoi'a queen. But I am so proud to work with them and speak about them, and I'm so proud of our work at KUA, where I've been for 12 years now. And I can talk about that more in the next questions, I guess.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, mahalo nui. And with working on and sustaining a lokoi'a, what are like key challenges that you guys face when maintaining lokoi'a?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Lokoi'a are so diverse, and I think the challenges are equally as diverse as the type of lokoi'a that we have in our community. I think the big challenges range everything from kind of the tenure of land, like how do we get those lands and secure those lands for those who are ready to awamo and carry that kuleana to move those spaces forward. Funding, Dr. Beamer was mentioning in the last segment, is how do we get genuine employment opportunities in the field of aloha aina, and so securing funding to get the team to do the work. For us in particular, invasive species is a big challenge for us. And this applies to both aquatic invasive species, those animals that don't belong here that live in the water parts of our loko, as well as terrestrial invasive species, the plants and the other things that kind of hinder our ability to enact this vision of, or not hinder, but push back on our vision of aina mamona, our sustainable ecosystems in our small community. Right across the street from us, the storms that are coming in with I'd say climate change is an underlying component for all lokoi'a that we're facing, but fixing walls and doing all those kinds of work. So just in our small community, we have a diversity of lokoi'a, and every single one of those lokoi'a have different challenges that they're trying to address.
Yeah, and Ms. Conley, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, Luke is absolutely right that different ponds have very distinct challenges, but I think one of the unifying challenges is restricted access to fresh water. The fresh water, like clean fresh water that can nurture the estuary environment, that grows the limus that the herbivores need to eat, that creates the environment in the outside fisheries that feed the recruitment to the ponds. There's a lot of cutoffs of fresh water, and we're talking clean fresh water too, that's not carrying down sewage or erosion and things like that.
Yeah, mahalo nui.
Oh, thank you so much for that from the two of you. Now, something that I wanted to do is really talk to Kamalu as well, who is a student intern. You go to Kamehameha Schools Hawaii. You're a junior this year, correct?
Yes.
So, with you having to balance your extracurriculars, having to balance your grade on top of that, what prompted you to make the initiative to begin a kulana and a kuleana at Kumuola?
Yeah, so I think it was through a summer school class, going down to the lokoi'a every day. It really sparked an interest of, what's within the lokoi'a, what challenges lokoi'a hold, and, how to overcome those challenges. And I'm so grateful that through this opportunity, I've been able to, dive deeper into those questions and be able to answer some of those, as well as being able to, share this information to our younger OPO. And that's really important because it all starts with them, yeah. So having our OPO know, identify problems, they can, and answer those problems in the future, yeah.
Yeah, mahalo for sharing your unique perspective. Before we continue our conversation, we have one more video highlighting the restoration work being done by a KS Kaiaulu partner at Kauai's Ala Koko Fish Pond.
Our main first step was the mangrove removal, over 26 acres of mangrove. Now we're getting into the mode of all that land that the mangrove built into the pond. There's 16 acres worth of settlement, not including what's on the bottom of the fish pond, but at least the ones we could see that close the structure. So that's what's happening now, is removing that land mass that the mangrove built into the pond to bring back the capacity of the water in the pond. Plus restoring the fish pond wall, which in October we had our first start of 2,000 feet of wall. So we're going to fine tune and finish it off. And then restoring the Auai system that borders the Mauka side of the fish pond, which is attached to springs that feed into that Auai and also connect to Taupat, Aloikalo, that is right along that edge, from the spring waters into the Auai, from 0 parts per thousand freshwater to brackish water to salt water right outside the wall. So being able to connect those dots and show how the Ahupua'a system works, but dive in more microscopically of not about just the water from the clouds getting to the land, but what was inside the water that helps show the ingenuity of our kupuna amplifying food and resources in the space versus just growing food.
Clean up the rock, and whatever rock is extra, we're going to slide back down this way.
Now we're getting all these problems nowadays, but we're looking at overfishing and pollution and all these other negative factors, and you're not putting, let's try to go reverse back a little bit and see what our kupuna had running that matches these mo'olelos to what we're trying to strive to back again, and what went mess up. So deconstructing and rebuilding them back up. All we need is a couple good examples, great examples on each island that starts amplifying and everybody starts spreading off of that. So this can be one example for here. This is our biggest fish pond on Kauai, then there should be no excuse for the other fish ponds to be restored. And this can be the training ground to get people started mindsets there, then boom, then we support as they go out to their zone and start building that network so that everybody who is core here now go help that one. And then from there we build up more, and then we just keep hopping around.
Before we continue, oh my gosh, these are such well-edited videos, so informational and all that. So looking at what was just mentioned, Alakoko, which is in Kauai, and we have Kumuola, which is in Hawaii Island, shows that as we look at where loko'i are stationed throughout the archipelago, you're looking at both bookends from Hawaii to Kauai. So the question I want to direct towards Ms. Conley is, can you elaborate on what your organization KUA is and what it does for Hawaii in a whole?
Like Peleke was talking about in the video, he used the words amplification and connectivity a lot, and that's kind of our niche at KUA. We believe that by coming together, by connecting and amplifying our voices, we can create the conditions that we want to thrive in together. So KUA does that by gathering community leaders, bringing local i'a and community practitioners from across the islands together to meet face to face, to work and sweat side by side, accomplish big things together, discuss hard things, and kind of like how Kamalu was talking about, when the students come together, they design their research questions and come up with solutions together and implement those solutions. We do that on an intergenerational scale, nurturing youth up to our kupuna, who are lifelong learners that have so much to teach and learn as well. And so by bringing together community, we're building a movement to advance the entire effort of Ahupua'a stewardship and community-based natural resources management.
Mahalo nui for that.
Yeah, mahalo nui. And I need to dig deeper into how community involvement can enhance the conservation of these Hawaiian fish ponds. Ms. Conley, you can answer first.
Yes, community. Intergenerational is key. There's a role for everybody. I mean, when I imagine like a complete picture, a complete view of at a loko'i'a, I hear babies crying and children running around and laughing, getting yelled at, getting scoldings. There's kupuna in chairs, pointing, giving instructions and pointing and overseeing. And everybody feels like they are contributing their gifts. And when we think about gifts, and I've learned this from one of my mentors, Auntie Puanani Burgess, everybody has gifts to bring. So when we think about lokui'a work, often we think about lifting heavy rocks and doing really huli kalimailalo, very muddy, intense work. But there's also roles for people like you who have these gifts in uplifting voices and telling stories. And, lokui'a nowadays, a lot of organizations, Uncle Eric, he says, I'm gonna butcher it, but he says something along the lines where you can't just be a farmer nowadays, you have to be a politician, a lawyer, an advocate, you have to know all your water rights and land tenure. And the same goes for lokui'a. And in today's world, lokui'a need help fundraising, and there's all this pressure for social media and website and putting themselves out there to get all this funding, and then, getting all the supplies they need and fighting for equitable pay for their people. And there's so many issues and areas that people can help with and contribute their gifts. Lokui'a are community builders. And when we also talk about community, we're talking beyond the people too. When people are coming back to their places, the homecoming, there's indicators of our fellow community. You have native waterfowl coming back, endangered species coming back, nesting, making homes again in these places as well. You see native seed banks coming up, providing habitat and medicine for the community. There's all of these other community that pop up, when the people are back in places and living in abundance and reciprocity.
Mahalo. And for Kumuola, in what ways do the fish ponds at Kumuola contribute to biodiversity and ecosystem health?
I think what Alex was mentioning earlier on Vai, when you think of the freshwater systems, and you think of lokui'a really as an interface between the freshwater systems, our Vai, and our Kai, our ocean systems, right? And Vai being just the indicator of health, clean Vai that's coming down being the indicator of health. And lokui'a and our Vai side, our freshwater systems and our saltwater systems are host to species found nowhere else in the world. And absent this connectivity, clean and functioning connectivity, we are going to lose. We're vulnerable to lose that. But I think more than biodiversity, I think it's also, lokui'a are important. The preservation of lokui'a are important as one aspect of a cultural practice that displays and supported community sustainability, which is what we're talking about now, and where we're trying to go and trying to relearn, and thinking of our agricultural field systems, and thinking of our lo'ikalo, and thinking of our lokui'a as integrated ways for community resilience. And I think protecting that diversity is equally as important as protecting the biodiversity that these systems hold as well. So it's really, they're really important places, and advocating for them, as you folks are doing right now, is just critical to, I think, setting the example going forward of what we're striving to be again.
All nui for that. And then, for Kamalu, real quick, going off of the previous question we asked before the video, how are you benefiting from being a steward and being an intern at Kumuola? I mean, I know you have a lot to share about experiences and the opportunities that making that decision really opened up for you, right?
Yeah, I've experienced so much through my time at the Kumuola, from collecting data and research to assuming the role as a kumu, teaching our younger keiki about the lokui'a and what it has to offer. as well as presenting my research at the Hawaii Conservation Conference. That was really special to me because I was not only able to represent my ohana and the Kumola staff, but I was able to share important data about local i'a, which can further help other local i'a in their problems, their unique problems, but they can apply the research that I conducted towards their local i'a. Yeah.
So everything you're collecting is really helping out pretty much the whole community as a whole.
Right, yeah.
So with everything you're doing, how do you think that your opportunities in this internship are gonna help you out, past high school or into college?
Yeah, at this time I'm looking at becoming a helicopter pilot, but through my experiences at Kumuola, I understand, how important it is to malama aina and have aloha for our aina, and that there are ways of conservation through a certain capacity for this career choice, and I'm able to deeper understand that through my experiences at Kumuola. Yeah.
Wow. Mahalo nui to the three of you for everything you guys shared. So much information to give from both sides, especially from a kumu and an adult perspective, as well as an opio perspective. That's always something good to share, and then something that we'll always look at. So we'll be right back to wrap up the show.
What is an Oiwi leader? Do they move people with their words? Do they let their actions speak? Do they breathe life into the past? Do they have a vision for the future? We celebrate every Oiwi leader who are all of these things and more. Together, they're helping our Lahui rise.
Great job, everyone. We learned so much today about two very important topics facing not only Hawaii Island, but really the entire state.
Yeah, we want to learn more from both of you about what your key takeaways were, especially for this local i'a. Kamahao, for you, what did you take away from that conversation?
Takeaway from that conversation is, well, first, I stand by what I said at the start of that segment. Native Hawaiians, all ingenuity, all being resource-based and understanding that for the bigger picture, it's important to serve not just one person, but the whole community in general. And I guess the takeaway from that is that, we have so much people in our community who are Native Hawaiian that understand the Native Hawaiian problems, and they understand that if we're going to solve these problems, we do it collectively and not just individually.
Oh, I love that takeaway. How about you? What struck out to you?
Yeah, definitely community involvement and really highlighting the importance of working together to tend to our land so that we are able to restore these local i'a. And one thing that we can benefit from is like the resources that the local i'a provide, and really protecting our native species within that local i'a also.
Yeah, I love the comment about how everyone has a different talent and can bring their own talents to find success. And you folks have very much well illustrated your own talents here being hosts. What was it like to participate in this and be host on television?
Yeah, for our first time, I'm just happy that I was able to hold space and highlight the geniuses of our guests and the work that they do to continue to uplift our communities, and so that we as future leaders can see the work that it takes to work towards a stronger future for not only Hawaiians, but for Hawaii as a state.
Oh, so well said. Kamaha'o, how about you? What stood out to you?
Stood out to me is just looking back to when my principal asked me in Vehiva if you want to do this 6 months ago, and just looking at what we just did now shows that all the hard work really pays off in the end, and it's all about shooting for the stars and just shooting to be your best. And I think we definitely accomplished that and highlighted what our guests had to share, and hopefully everyone else can also be impacted by it.
Yeah, well, your shining stars definitely shone bright on this. Your hard work really paid off. Thank you to both of you for being here, and also to all of your fellow students at Kamehameha Schools Hawaii Island campus. We know there was a big team behind you all helping with this show.
We'll have another Spotlight Now Student Edition coming up, so make sure you stay tuned. Mahalo for watching.